Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Getting in a College Coach Conversation. I'm your host, Ian Fisher. This week, we've got a great show that is lined up for you on this Valentine's Day, or at least it's Valentine's Day where we are. You're off in the future now listening to this 8 days after we've recorded it, but we're really excited to bring this content to you and to give you some updates, first of all, on the California State University system. So, starting, we want to welcome my colleague, Gabbi Tobias, who is here from the great state of California. Hi, Gabbi. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Ian, thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. And we were just talking before the show that the Cal State application process remains pretty consistent as it has always been. They're not changing anything about what they ask students for in the near future. They continue not to include test scores as a part of their process. But you've done a lot of digging at some
Mhm.
updates across the system and some things that we think folks might like to know out there.
Yeah,
Um, let's start first with the update as a result of the FAFSA
yeah,
delay. And maybe you can just clue some folks in on what's going on with financial aid and how that might impact certain dates and deadlines this year.
yeah, of course. So I know financial aid has definitely been a different year than we've experienced in the past in admissions. I've talked to a number of parents and just reiterated that this is not a usual year that we've had due to financial aid. So we've had a bit of a delay in the past, but I know Chrissy's going to be on next to kind of discuss a
Right.
little bit more of the ins and outs of that. But due to that delays the FAFSA getting that information to colleges. So we've had a number of colleges who have extended their enrollment deadline. So traditionally across the board, May 1st is the enrollment deadline for students to make that final decision, have a celebration, confetti, all of that. And now it is extended for the CSU system, and then we'll include the UCs in here too until May 15th. They have decided that last week. So students have until May 15th to make that final enrollment deposit and decide upon which campus they will choose.
I was thinking about this earlier today. Was just May 1st has always been the deadline, but it also doesn't feel like it has to be May 1st, right? It's not as though something happens on May 2nd for students that they need to
Right.
get ready for. So I think this delay is really wise.
Yeah.
And you're right. Chrissy is going to be on for the next segment or the last segment of today's show. And we'll be talking a little bit about what families can do as they're trying to make sense of these financial aid awards. But as always, I think we appreciate the leadership from the
Yeah.
California state system in saying, hey, we're going to push this time back because we know how important this information is going to be for populations that we serve.
Absolutely.
So great. I think that's good news for families in what has otherwise been quite a hectic year with financial aid. And we won't unpack with all of our opinions on
Get
that
into all of that.
today.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, you said that there was some really interesting stuff that's happening with the CSUs and their transfer success
Yeah.
pathway, which is new to them. Can you just give a little explanation of what the transfer success pathway is and who it's meant to serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that I attended California State Counselor Conference back in 2022 fall. And so this was something that was under the wraps that they were discussing during then. And I think it excited all of us as counselors because, the UCs had something similar to this. And so we were excited the Cal States were able to kind of add their own touch and personal spin to this. But really, overall, the goal of the transfer success pathway is to make the process for California community college students and to make it a little bit more easier, accessible to transfer to the Cal States. And not just the application process, right? Because I think the application process is a little bit more straightforward than a lot of other applications.
Yeah.
But I think also what comes into that is credits, classes, making sure that additional things are transferable, which I think can kind of get a little bit in the weeds and can get a little complicated with students and counselors and academic counselors. And so this pathway is designed to kind of help ease and smooth that process for students. I think they said about 40% of CSU undergrads actually transfer in from California community colleges, which is a big percentage.
That's huge. Yeah.
Right. So they wanted to make some sort of pathway to kind of make it a little bit more easier for them. So essentially what it is in early 2024, the CSU is creating more of a centralized resource to track their community college courses, to minimize credit loss, And so it's a whole entire kind of transfer portal or transfer planner. So you can access it from a computer, a tablet, a phone. So it's really easily accessible. I actually went online yesterday and the day before just to kind of look at it. And it's really easy. Students will just need to kind of create an account to put in the
Hmm.
community college that they'll be enrolling in. And the nice thing is they'll be able to work in tandem with community college counselors, also CSU transfer planner counselors, academic counselors to make sure that's three people that they'll all have kind of accountability for to make sure they're kind of staying on track and staying towards the course.
I Yeah, and I think this is great. I think because, and I don't know what, the conversations that you've had with families, but we'll talk sometimes with families who've got seniors in high school and they're
Yeah,
considering the community college route. They're also looking at four-year colleges. And sometimes my word of caution is you can sometimes get lost within the community college system. You can take classes that don't transfer. You can find
yeah,
yourself exploring electives that are not getting you any closer to a goal of transferring to a four-year institution if that's what you want. And it
yeah,
sounds like this is set up to solve that problem, to
yeah,
sort of keep students from aimlessly taking classes in community college, but getting them on track. Is that consistent with the
yeah.
stated purpose of the
Yes,
program?
that's consistent to kind of help solve that problem. And in a sense, kind of be that middleman and that liaison to kind of say, okay, you enter into one agreement with the CSU of your choice. You choose to enroll at community college. The overall or overarching goal and kind of the end point is once the students enter into this agreement, they have to say that, the goal is to graduate within 3 years and then enter into a CSU. So I think that's correct. And kind of what you're saying is that's that nice kind of thing is it makes it a little bit more simplistic, easier, and kind of getting to that end point a little bit more easier than what was before. So
Gotcha. Now, I think the UC has always had this tag, the Transfer Admission Guarantee Program, not with every single one of their campuses,
right.
but with many of their campuses where students could apply to tag with a particular UC, and that would guarantee them admission if they took the right courses and got good enough grades in that space. Is this sort of the CSU version of that tag program?
Yeah, I think this is going to be in a sense. I mean, they're still rolling it out. I'm sure they may have some couple things to iron out, depending on how this year goes. But I think this is essentially going to be kind of that precedent of that tag program for the UC campuses. Versus students will have over 23 campuses to choose from, so quite a bit of variety, up and down the coast of California.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be very much similar to that. I think it's going to give students a lot more options to look into.
So who's eligible for this program? You said that it's fairly new now. Is this eligible? Is this something that students should be thinking about just as they're starting their community college term this fall? Does it apply to students who've already been in community college for a year? Who should be listening especially carefully to this segment to learn more?
Yeah, I think so. This year they've stated that 2023 high school graduates and beyond, so even people who maybe started, who enroll in a California community college and commit to this, are going to be eligible. So they've opened up to this fall cohort. And so they opened up October 1st and then closed that September 30th. And so now high school students who are going to be graduating in 2024, they're eligible for it as well too. So if you're planning to enroll in California Community College in 2024, or maybe for students who maybe the CSU system didn't work out for them due to X, Y, and Z financial reasons, maybe academic reasons, maybe they were ineligible. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of. If you're planning on going to a California community college for the next few years, look into this. You can go into, I think, Cal State Apply, and right there in big red is transfer success pathway. And that way you can kind of get a sense for what your options are like. But it is available for fall 2024 freshmen and those who have graduated.
Sometimes when students hear about programs like the Transfer Admission Guarantee or this new CSU program, they think that it might take away some of their choice if they connect with that school. Is there something that requires a student to go to a CSU as a transfer pathway if they enter into this agreement, or can they still apply to other schools as transfer applicants as well?
I don't believe it's necessarily cut off yet to where they have to go to the CSU. I believe they still have their options open for them, right? I think the only thing is kind of similar to the talent program for the UCs is that it's just one CSU that they can get into. But if they're wanting to go to a private institution, or maybe they want to open up their ideas to an out-of-state institution, and they really know, okay, this is the one CSU that I tried for initially, and maybe it didn't work out. This can also be a great option for them. So they also can express other interest while working on this transfer success pathway too.
And I think one of the main, bits of advice that we would give here is be aware of what these pathways are going to look like for schools that you might expect to be interested in,
Right.
right? I think there are a lot of students that say, well, I'm going to apply to a UC. CSUs are a second choice for me, let's
Right.
say. And so I'm not going to consider this option. But what you're saying is, actually, if you keep all of these options open simultaneously, you're giving yourself the greatest possibility of success as a transfer candidate.
Exactly. You kind of have a sense of, okay, this is exactly what my pathway could look like within this transfer success pathway. And let me explore, like you're saying, other options. Maybe I want to, throw my hat into a few private or a few out of states or maybe a UC campus. But at least you kind of have a little bit more of a guaranteed sense of, okay, I know I'm taking these right courses. I'm working with these correct transfer success counselors. That, I know kind of what the end goal will look like.
That's great. Great stuff. And I think something for families out there to continue to research, to learn a little bit more about as their students are starting at California community colleges. Now, you've done some digging, you've looked around at a lot of Cal States. There are a lot of updates
Oh my gosh, yeah.
within the system. And the Cal State system, I think, for me personally, is always a little surprising in terms of what it's up to, the kinds of students they're serving. We had a great segment last year where we welcomed a couple of Cal State alumni on the show, and they talked about their experience at those Cal State schools. One of them had gotten into a UC, but chosen to attend the Cal State instead, and got a really great, wonderful education there. And so I think people are noticing that there are some
Yeah.
exciting opportunities available, especially for those California residents. So let's go around the horn. Let's talk about some of the updates that you've noticed that seem particularly exciting, that might be interesting for our families.
Yeah.
And we'll start with Humboldt, Cal Poly Humboldt. You said they've got some new programs, right?
Yes, so they recently transitioned to a polytechnic institution. So they have 10 new academic programs this year. So they have a bachelor's in data science and energy systems engineering. Engineering and just data science in general is huge and blowing up. And so this is going to be a really great interdisciplinary program that helps kind of meet the needs of the surrounding population and just overall students who are interested in these types of pathways. So I think that's going to be really cool and something kind of exciting just to look out for kind of within the next few years or just within the next academic cycle. So I think 10 is huge, right? You usually don't see 10 all at once. But I think for that institution, that transition is going to be something that's big. So.
That's really cool. And Humboldt State has a great ultimate frisbee team. For those who are interested, they were a rival of ours from Northern California. It's a great, beautiful part of the state as well. What about what's going on with the Titans down in Fullerton?
So my next door neighbors. So they have some really great programs. So Fullerton has been known traditionally for their bachelor's, entertainment, communications. They're right next door to Disneyland, so provides great access to students who are interested in those types of fields and those pathways. But we've kind of seen them transitioning to open up just a little bit more too. So they've just announced the new art degree program. So an art history, which combines kind of art theory and appreciation courses like 3D modeling, museum, education, and advanced ceramics. I actually visited Cal State Fullerton and they talked in depth about their graphic design and their art opportunities, and I had no idea. So I think this program is going to be able to kind of pair nicely with that as well. And they've also introduced a new bachelor's in communication disorders in several courses through their electrical and computer engineering program. So another big popular program. So if you're a student interested in that, look to Fullerton. They've just announced a couple new courses and have really kind of expanded their offerings.
That's great. I want to skip up to Cal Poly SLO, San Luis Obispo. That's the one that's typically most known for engineering, but they've got an exciting new program that has nothing to do with engineering. What's going on with that new opportunity?
So this was actually something that I loved because this is what I studied in college. So I was actually excited to see that they're doing this. So they have, I'm just looking at my notes a little bit so I can make sure I get it correct. They have the Horetta Lewis Social Justice and Residential Learning. So it's geared towards people who are passionate about social justice and equity.
Hmm.
which is great. And so it's going to be a whole cohort and residential community for those students. Now, priority for students who are interested in that are going to be given to ethnic study undergrads, because I think that pairs a little bit nicely with that. But they'll be required to participate in credit academic courses. And the goal is to provide more of a holistic understanding of social justice and inclusive leadership. So that's going to be exciting for them. Another kind of, again, STEM related school, but it's going to be nice to kind of open those opportunities within there.
No, and it's great to see more kind of interdisciplinary work that is breaking those silos and giving students to think about the opportunity of their work on communities in which they live. And you also shared that SLO is establishing an off-campus housing
Yeah.
program that'll help students to transition from on to off-campus living during their time as students there.
Yeah.
I want to skip ahead just to impaction, because this is going to be something that our parents of
Yeah.
high school students are always asking about. Impaction, of course, refers to the difference between demand and supply in terms of incoming freshman seats. What are
Yeah.
we hearing from schools out there? Which ones are impacted? Which are not? Is there any change that we might expect?
So the nice thing is over 10, I think a little bit around 16 campuses are still non-impacted, which is great. So leaves room and lots of opportunities for students who are interested in a couple of different majors and campuses to really kind of explore that. 7 campuses still do remain impacted. So we'll have LA, Long Beach, Fullerton, San Diego, San Jose. Some of the more popular campuses or more campuses that get a little bit more applicants still do remain impacted. The nice thing is that Cal State Northridge just announced that they're going to ease impaction for 2024 through 2025 application year. And so only 4 majors, so they're kind of more popular majors: accountancy, business admin, media, film. Those are still going to remain impacted. But they've kind of gotten rid of that local area impaction requirement. And so all California residents have those same requirements to meet. So,
Gotcha. Gotcha. So little changes. I think the popular CSUs remain the popular CSUs,
right.
but a great reminder that throughout the system, there are many opportunities for students to look for really great educational programs.
Yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
believe we got through all this stuff. Gabby, thanks for doing all of this digging and research and bringing it to our families. I think it's super helpful.
Yeah, I love the CSUs. I think they provide great opportunities. And I still do want to plug one more thing is there are a number of CSUs that are still accepting applications. If you're still
Mm.
looking for schools to apply to. So you can also go to Cal State Apply and it can show a drop down of schools that are still accepting those applications. So for students who are still looking, there are still options.
That's a great reminder. Thanks a lot for coming on the show today. And as you alluded to, we're going to have Chrissy on in the next segment to talk a little bit about the current financial aid landscape. So thanks a lot for being here, Gabby. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ian, for having me.
All right, folks, we'll be right back. Don't go away.